A lion collapses at a forgotten gas station, his great body trembling with exhaustion, his eyes clouded by time and dust, but holding something ancient, something waiting. The world freezes, watching from behind glass and caution tape, unsure whether to fear or mourn, and then she appears, a woman in slippers, no armor, no warning. Moving like someone in a dream or a memory, she drops to her knees, not in fear, but in recognition, drawn by a thread that never snapped, not with years, not with silence, not even with goodbye, because somewhere beneath the dirt and distance, beneath the noise of a life half-lived, she still carries his name etched into her breath, and he hears it somehow, through pain, through fading senses. He lifts his head, and the moment stretches between them, heavy with what was lost and what might still be found. Time doesn't explain this, it only makes it matter more, because what they shared was never gone. It was only waiting for the world to go quiet enough to return. She lived, alone at the edge of a town that had forgotten how to be remembered days, folding into each other with the softness of dust. Her movements quiet, her voice seldom used. The kitchen still held 2 bowls, though only one was ever filled. The radio played the same old station, never too loud, as if silence had earned its place. The back porch creaked when she stepped out every evening, cup in hand, eyes scanning the tree line. Not for anything in particular, just the habit of waiting, her slippers worn smooth by repetition. Her hands always doing something that didn't need doing, folding laundry twice, watering plants that never bloomed. Her neighbors said she was kind, polite, kept to herself. No one noticed how her fingers paused mid-stir at a certain sound, or how she never looked at the old photos tucked in the back of the drawer. Still the mornings came with their grey light, and still she rose because something in her wouldn't let her stop, not yet, though she no longer remembered what she was waiting for, only that the absence had shape and weight, and that some part of her still lived in the echo of a name she hadn't spoken aloud in years. The morning they came for him, the sky was too bright, as if the sun didn't know what was happening, as if the world refused to grieve with her. She tried to smile, tried to believe the words they gave her like dull blades cutting through hope. They said he'd be safe, said he'd have more space, more care. But all she saw was a cage on wheels and strangers with calm voices and firm hands. She knelt beside him, one last time, fingers tangled in his mane, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. He didn't understand, not fully, but he felt the shift, her trembling, the way her voice cracked. He looked at her eyes, wide unsure, and when the truck door closed and the engine growled, she reached for him as if she could stop time. He turned once, his eyes searching for something familiar, and then he was gone, and the silence that followed wasn't quiet, it was screaming, but only she could hear it. Days blurred into each other, the house echoing too much too often. She left the sanctuary not long after, unable to bear the hollow space he left behind, the forest paths they used to walk. Now just empty trails. She stopped, singing stopped, dreaming stopped, answering the phone. Her voice stayed locked somewhere deep behind her ribs and across the miles. He waited too. At first he paced, he cried out for her. Then he learned to stop expecting faces to stay the same. Hands became commands. Food came without warmth. Time stretched out wide and grey. He forgot the stars they used to lie beneath, forgot the lullabies, but not the feeling, not the ache. Something was missing, something essential, the kind of absence that doesn't fade, it just hides, waiting to be remembered again, waiting to be found. Let me pause for just a moment. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? Have you ever had someone, a person, or even an animal, remember you after years apart? A glance, a sound, a feeling that said, I never forgot you. If stories like this speak to something in your heart, make sure to follow. There's so much more ahead, and it only gets deeper. It started with a photo, grainy, out of focus, tucked in the corner of an article she almost didn't click on. A lion collapsed by a gas station, somewhere far but not impossible. and something in her chest snapped like a thread pulled too tight. The shape of him, even in ruin, was too familiar, the curve of his spine, the way his body folded, not wild but wounded. Her heart knew before her mind caught up. She stared for hours, fingers trembling over the screen, battling every voice that said, "Don't hope, don't. Believe he's gone." But hope doesn't ask permission. It rises without reason, and she felt it blooming painfully, recklessly. And still she hesitated. What if he didn't remember? What if she was just chasing a ghost? What if the years had broken something beyond repair? But another voice, quieter, older, whispered, "Go not with certainty, not with promise, only with that fragile, stubborn thing inside her that never truly let go." And miles away, he too had seen something. Not a photo, not a sign, but a smell in the wind, a sound echoing through trees like laughter, like safety, and suddenly he couldn't stay. The fences were still there, the walls still high, but something in him said, "Move!" And he did, walking without knowing where. Just that forward was the only direction that made sense. His body weak, but his memory sharp in places that mattered. And as he walked, the memories came not as images, but sensations. The warmth of her hands, the rhythm of her steps beside his, the lullabies sung into fur and fading light. He didn't know if she was real or if memory had tricked him, but the ache was real enough to follow, and she drove, not breathing, not blinking, gripping the wheel like it could save her from her own hope. Each mile tightening the knot inside her, but still she went, because sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the refusal to stop looking. The car door closed with a soft click, but the sound rang louder than anything she'd heard in years. Her slippers met the pavement. Her heart pounded, so hard it made her hands shake, and there he was sprawled by the gas pumps too, still too quiet, but not gone. Not yet, his ribs lifted just barely. With each breath she moved forward, as if in a dream. Every step measured like the ground might vanish under her weight, her eyes locked on him, searching past the dirt, the bones, the ruin for something that once was. And then his ear twitched, almost imperceptible, but enough, and her breath caught her voice. Rose not loud but fragile, like it had to pass through years of silence just to reach the air. And she said his name not once, but twice. The second time broke something in her chest, and he heard it. His body didn't move, but his eyes opened slow, like waking from something heavy and endless, and in them she saw it. Not just life, not just awareness, but her. And the world shifted. Everything paused, like it was holding its breath. And for a moment, neither of them moved, the silence between them, full of everything they never got to say. Then she knelt, knees touching cold concrete, her fingers reaching, trembling, scared, not of him, but of what it would mean if he turned away. But he didn't. He let her touch him, his fur rough, tangled, but still warm. And when her hand settled against him, he leaned in just slightly, just enough, and the sound that came from his chest wasn't a roar. It was something deeper, a tremor, a hum, like the earth remembering its shape. And the people around didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't dare interrupt the kind of moment that doesn't belong to the world, only to the two souls who found their way back, and in that space between heartbeat and breath. She knew he remembered not everything, not every detail, but the feeling, the safety, the love, and in his eyes she wasn't older, or tired, or lost. She was just herself again. And so was he. And the weight of years didn't disappear. But it didn't matter, because in that moment they weren't apart anymore. They were home. The first night she sat beside him, under the humming lights of the empty gas station, wrapped in a blanket too thin for the cold, her hand resting gently against his side, feeling the rise and fall of breath that once nearly stopped. And when she began to hum the old lullaby, it came out shaky, unsure, but as the melody unfolded something in him, shifted his ear, twitched. His massive paw moved closer, not fully, not yet, but enough. And she kept singing, voice steadier, with each note in the morning. She offered him water, He turned away, then back, then drank slowly, watching her the whole time, his eyes still tired but no longer distant. By the third day, he let her brush the knots from his mane, and when the bristles caught, he didn't pull back. He just exhaled and leaned into her hand like he used to when he was small. She smiled. Then a real one, not forced. Not polite, but from the deepest part of her that had been numb for too long. That evening, he nudged her arm with his nose soft and uncertain, and she laughed, not loudly, but with warmth, like sunlight after too many winters. And they stayed like that, side by side, watching the sky shift from grey to gold. And in those quiet moments, she remembered what it felt like to belong. And so did he. Small things became sacred. He followed her steps, just a little, his eyes, tracking her voice, her hands, her scent, and she spoke to him without expecting answers, telling him stories, brushing dirt from his fur, humming more each night, and somewhere along the way, the weight inside her lessened, not gone, but no longer unbearable, because now she could share it with the only soul who had ever truly seen her. And he stood one morning on shaking legs, while she whispered, yes, 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 through tears and joy and disbelief. And when he looked at her with that slow, calm gaze, she knew not. Everything lost was gone forever. Some things only sleep until love calls them home again, because memory is not a place. It's a tether, and theirs had never broken, only stretched across time, waiting quietly, patiently for this moment to return. And now that it had, they would never be alone again. Some bonds do not ask for explanation. They outlast voices, outlast time, carrying their shape through silence and distance like a heartbeat you almost forget until you feel it again. What brought them back was not chance. It was something quieter, older, made of memory and love that never asked to be seen to be real. In finding each other again, they did not return to who they were. They became something more, gentler, braver, whole in a new way. Because true connection doesn't vanish. It waits, beneath the noise, beneath the ache, until the moment it's needed most. And then, without asking permission, it returns, and everything changes.